Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Cheerleader podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Neely, and today is another episode of the TopCats Era series celebrating 30 years of TopCats. Today, I am joined by DaWanda Bittle and Felicia Dawson. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. So I want to start out with you giving an opportunity to tell our audience who you are, background about when you danced as a Top Cat, and any notable achievements or experiences you've had during that time, and then what you've been up to since retiring as a Top Cat. DaWanda, do you want to start?
I'll go first. Okay, sure. Okay, so I cheered as a Top Cat from 1997 to 2007. So I had 10 seasons. And I was thrilled to be a part of the Top Cat program. I served as captain 5 years of my 10. I was a part of the show team where we traveled to Air Force bases. We did one wonderful trip to London, England to introduce the NFL, the Europe NFL to the Super Bowl, and notably also cheered at Super Bowl 38, which is, of course, the wonderful Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake Super Bowl. I won't mention anything else after who was dancing or singing there, but it was a fantastic and phenomenal time, and I think in my tenure with the Top Cats and being captain, I really cared about my rookies and just having the opportunity to bring people together and feel their best and have that comfortable space on the field to do what they love to do. And that carried over afterwards in joining our alumni. I was like a general member at first, and then I ran for our president when the Alumni Association was a part of the organization. And since then, the Alumni Association was separated, and I have recently incorporated as a nonprofit 501(c)(7. And yes. And I am excited to serve on our board as chairman. And I'm so happy to see the organization just form its legs and its arms and take off so that people can still have a space for sisterhood, still have a space for camaraderie, working in the community, and helping any particular alumni sister or brother in need.
Awesome. Thank you so much, DaWanda. What about you, Felicia?
Well, I also cheered 10 years from 96 to 2007. I was fortunate enough to be a part of the inaugural squad in 96. It was about 400 of us that tried out for the squad the very first time that we had auditions. So to make it through that was definitely a highlight and quite memorable, to say the least. During my tenure, for the 10 years, I was a captain for 2 of the years, received some rewards. We used to do things called, Captain's Choice, Road Runner, which I won one year. When my first 2 years cheering for the Top Cats, I actually did not live in the Charlotte area. I lived almost 3 hours away, actually. So I would come up with a friend on Wednesday. We had rehearsals on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I would spend the night with her, get up early Thursday morning, and drive to work. And so I did that for like 2 years until I relocated to the Charlotte area. But I mean, cheering was an amazing opportunity, just to the camaraderie of the squad. We learned so much outside of just being a cheerleader. So just some things that I've taken in my lifetime, and things that I will never forget as far as memories. And so being able to celebrate our 30th reunion last year, I thought was phenomenal. So just excited to be here, and thank you so much for having us.
Yes. I want to get into some of those, and thank you, by the way, for sharing that. I want to get into some of those memories that you mentioned, Felicia. What were some of those lessons that you learned from being on the team for 10 years? What were some of the best lessons and best memories from that time?
I would say the best lesson, I'm just trying to think over those 10 years.
That's a long time to
Yeah,
get
it
some
is.
good
I think I
lessons.
learned
Yeah.
punctuality because we
Yes.
were afraid to be late. We had what was called a call time. So, depending on whether it was game day or an appearance, you learned to be there earlier than the call time. Gosh, some other lessons. Oh, just don't take things for granted. We did not take our position on the squad for granted because although we didn't have to start from scratch each year if you decided to re-audition. A lot of people didn't think we had to re-audition, but we did. You advanced to the final stage, but you didn't take your position for granted because, you could potentially be cut. And so I think it helped just to be at the top of your toes all the time, just making sure that, you had everything together. Um, Also during that auditions, I think taught me to just be nice to everybody, regardless of whether you know them. They really instilled that in us during the audition process is, to really be helpful to the young ladies that were coming to audition because you never know, they may be your teammates. And so if you treat someone mean during the audition process and then you all happen to make the squad, oh, hey, you're my teammate now. So I was very excited that they instilled that in us from the beginning. I also learned the game of football, cheering. I mean, to this day, oh, that should be a flag or that was pass interference. People are like, how do you know that? I'm like, they made sure we knew what we were cheering for. You're not just going to be out there, throwing up your pom poms and dancing, even though that's what brought us all together. But I think, DaWanda can attest to this as well. We learned the game of football, which is why we love it so much to this day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as
Absolutely.
far as
Agreed.
memories, I was a part of the show team as well and got to do the London trip with DaWanda. I think that was in 2005.
Yeah.
So that was fabulous. Also cheered in Super Bowl 38, which was phenomenal. Brought up memories when the Patriots, well, of course, they've been in so many times, but just thinking about that entire experience, it was indescribable. And so even, with being an alumni and having the opportunity to do some things with the alumni. I can't remember exactly what it's called, DaWanda, when alumni cheerleaders kind of get invited to host or be a part of some of the community events that they have around the Super Bowl. I was able to do that
Yes.
in, I think, 24.
Yeah.
So all of that, and just met some wonderful women through this program and just the memories that we all have, laughing in the locker room, helping each other, coming to practice early, making sure everybody knew what they were doing, just
Right.
teamwork to the core. So those are some things I would say.
Yeah. DaWanda, what would you have to add? What would you add to that in terms of best lessons and memories?
Best lessons and memories. Starting with lesson, I agree with Felicia 100%. Punctuality was key. You did not play. You needed to show up because you're dealing with corporate. If they're paying for a top cat to come, you need to be on time. You're on their dime. So punctuality was key. Lessons also professionalism. Even if we're using their restrooms or in their conference room and you don't know the corners or the places where people you can't see, don't talk about people. You never know if they're in the stall next to you or in the room or the corner next to you and you're talking about them. So that would be very awkward if you have to then go engage with them for the remainder of the time. So that was a key lesson that our coach Kimberly always talked about. And that was one of the first things I remember headed out to an appearance. And like they made us, really take notes on what you do at appearances. Like as a rookie, you don't get assigned appearances first off the bat. You had to go through some type of training and awareness of how to behave. You're just not going there to dance. You have to be an ambassador for the organization. So they took it very seriously for us. And so when I mean professionalism, it was your demeanor, it was your speech, it was your appearance. Not only was I just there as DaWanda, but I was there representing the TopCats and the Carolina Panthers. So that was a huge, huge thing. So that still is with me today. You know, you don't really go somewhere just looking, you know, how you want to or whatever. You definitely want to make sure that people know that you're caring for yourself and you're caring for what you're about to do. Memories, there's so many. I mean, they're almost like categories. Locker room memories, game day memories, Super Bowl memories. But I would just take it in Super Bowl memory probably stands out the biggest because we just finished Super Bowl on Sunday night. And so the whole memory of the week, or actually playoffs, you know, the Panthers played their last game for the last game of the season. We won the NFC South. We had a home playoff game. And in my mind at that time, we were good, but I just didn't understand that we were that good at that moment in time. And we killed Dallas in the playoff game at home. We killed them. The team went on to the second round, the semis or whatever they call it, the second round of the divisional, and played St. Louis Rams, who are now the LA Rams. Went to double overtime and the most phenomenal play with Jake Delhomme to Steve Smith to take that winning drive into the end zone for the end of the game and the big win. That still plays in my mind over and over. And then just to watch the final game at one of our former Top Cats house and the NFC Championship against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then after that game at her house, we all got in the car. We drove downtown because I mean, like the roads were blocked, the
Yeah.
streets were blocked, people were just out. It was Panther pandemonium. And ultimately, we made our way over to the stadium. Our director, Leslie, came down. She organized for us to get into the locker room, find some pom poms. And then we were back outside waiting for the buses to come back into Charlotte, into the stadium with the players to get off. And I tell you, Jasmine, it had to be 10 degrees outside, but it didn't matter. Our team had just made it to the Super Bowl. And so we, along with all of Charlotte, was in the front on Moorhead, whereas the buses come in and let the players out. We were cheering, we were having fun, and all of a sudden, we were excited for our team, but we just won the NFC Championship. Still, it hadn't rang in our head. Are we going to Super Bowl? Or just the players going to Super Bowl? And the next day, we got our email from Leslie saying, congratulations, we are going to the Super Bowl 38. And oh, the fun began big time. And that's a whole different story, Jasmine. But that memory of going through the playoff series with them, we only had that one home game because they were on the road for the other ones. But we had a playoff experience and we had a Super Bowl experience. That memory will never fade.
Oh my gosh, that's so incredible. Every time I hear that story, I'm just like, "Oh, that must have been so much fun to be there, to be on the team." And just the fact that you got to go into the locker room and like wait for the team to come back home and welcome them home. And that it must have been like super early in the morning too. Not only was
Oh
it
yeah,
super
well, the
cool, was
game
it
Yeah.
was
really early?
like what time, Felicia? We had to be out there maybe like 11:30, 12 o'clock,
Yeah.
something like
It was
that.
late. Yeah. It
It
was
was
late.
late because
Wow.
we had been downtown. Matter of fact, Felicia and I were celebrating at the same little
Right.
celebration party. It was a good time. And I mean, I think they like put it on the news what time the bus would be back from the airport. And so that's how all the rest of Charlotte got down to the stadium. And we were all waiting for them to come back and just cheer them on to let them know that they had the whole city and state supporting them. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, think that we'll get back at that point
Hmm.
sooner, I think, rather than later. I like to
Yes.
hope that we will,
Yes.
get back to the Super Bowl and win again so
Exactly,
we can
exactly.
experience
That
all of
win
that
is
excitement.
coming. The cardiac cats were born that year.
Right.
If you
Right.
know anything about that, that whole season was magical because we didn't win games easy, no doubt. That's why I was like, hey, we're good. but I don't know that we're going to go to the Super Bowl. Like nobody had that in their mind because they
Mhm.
just won at the end. It was always the last minute drive. It was a field goal for the win or overtime win. So it was definitely a pleasant surprise. And that's definitely when the Cardiac Cats were born.
I did not know that. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I'm glad you told me the origin story of the Cardiac Cats because that makes so
It
much sense.
was. Well, this is one little tidbit. This is a memory, right? I am a huge Holly Robinson Pete fan, and her husband was our quarterback at the start of that year, Rodney Pete. And unfortunately, that first game against Jacksonville, we were losing big time, first half of the game. And after halftime, Coach Fox, we call him Foxy, put in Jake Delhomme to be the quarterback for the rest of that game. And he led those winning drives. And I'm like, seriously, Musin Muhammad, Steve Smith, all of our legends were like coming to life. And the games were lit. The fans never sat down. It was always a party at the stadium. And at that
Wow.
time, it was Ericsson Stadium.
Mhm.
We didn't
Yeah.
become Bank of America to the next year, but it was a party.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. That's gonna come again. I know it's gonna come again. History
It
repeats.
will. It does. It does. And this time for the win,
Right.
Yes, for the win. Third time's a charm.
for sure.
So, did both of you ladies have dance experience prior to auditioning for Top Cats? And what gave you the confidence to go for it?
I didn't take dance class as a kid. I grew up just kind of like cheerleading in school, junior high school, high school. By the time I got to college at UNC Charlotte, I tried out for a dance team and I made it. And it's just based off of my experience in public school cheerleading. But what I will say, being a gold duster at UNC Charlotte and going to UDA camps gave me experience with dance and cheer dance. And our style of cheer dance for Top Cats was probably a lot more prevalent than it is now. So cheer dance was, sharp motions, pom poms, and all of that. And so that was my niche. So I auditioned with confidence, but I did not make it my first year. That inaugural year, I did not make it. So enjoyed the experience, but I wanted to do this. So I came back the next year and did make it and cheered those 10 years consecutively after that. But no dance experience from like a Miss Donna's dance class or anything like that. Nothing on that nature. Just me and my own perseverance and dedication to doing what I want to accomplishing what I want.
Wow, that's amazing. How about you, Felicia?
I did take jazz and tap, but I didn't start until I was in the sixth grade. But I had cheered, from a little girl all the way up, took jazz and tap. By the time I got to college, I went to Winthrop. Of course, we didn't have football, we just had basketball. So I was like, I'm going to go cheer. And so I went, and of course, they had the guys. And I think in practice, we did a stunt one day. I think whatever it's called, a chair, whatever it is. And he was like, okay, now I'm going to extend you. I was like, nope, put me down. And I was like, where are the dance team tryouts? So
Mhm.
they were called the Golden Garnet Dance Team. So I danced all 4 years at Winthrop. I remember finding out about the Top Cats auditions. It was advertised in a newspaper in 95. And I remember we had to send our info in if we were interested. But then we got an email stating that they were going to wait until the stadium was completed in Charlotte in 96. So I was on the list to get the information for the very next year. But like DaWanda said, I mostly cheered and danced. So definitely their style of dance has evolved quite a bit. And I'm like, ooh, some of that technical stuff. I would get cut, but
Cool though for you because we had a cheer style coach in the beginning which probably suited our backgrounds exceptionally well, and then we could see the evolution of the
Mhm,
dance when we had a different coach, and she was a little bit more dancey, a little bit more jazzy,
mhm,
and we kind of put that on our backs too, so we started to dabble in that
right.
more dance style too.
What kind of things did you have to do for auditions? Like, did you have to do across the floor? Did you have to do freestyle? Like, what kind of things did they make
Let
you
me
do?
tell you about tryouts. So it was about 3 weeks of auditions. So you have prelims. You come in and they would play random music. And you would bring your own couple of 8 counts. I don't even know how long you were auditioning. Maybe it was 45 seconds or 60 seconds. And they would play music, and you'd have like a little 5, 6, 7, 8 counts that you could put to that song. You never knew which song you were going to get. This was the first couple of years. And then they would cut you, and then you would go to a second round, a semis, and they would teach you a routine, which we would probably liken it to be like a sideline, and they would cut you from there. And then if you made it through that cut, then you were considered a finalist, and you had practices where you learned two routines, where you didn't know if you were going to do an odd part or an even part. You had to do a one dance, you had to do a two dance. Two routines were taught at the audition. You didn't know which routine was going to be done for finals night. And then, along with all of that practicing, we had interviews, face to face interviews, where you came in your business attire. You met with both the director and the choreographer in the interviews, and they had to connect with you. You had to show that you could speak. You had to show that you were going to be a good teammate. So those interviews were held, and along with the audition process, once you got through the finals, which was a process in itself. But we've seen some of it return a little bit, where you had to speak before you dance. They ask you football questions, because Felicia mentioned it earlier. We learned the game of football, and it started at auditions because they would ask you football questions. Describe, what is a sack? What is a first down?
Mm-hmm.
What is a field goal? How many points is that? Just all of the questions that revolve around football. And then they ask you a philosophical question, because people randomly talk to you at appearances and engagements, and how can you think on your feet? And all kinds of questions came for that, whether it be current events, entertainment and pop culture, or just random kind of what's your if you had to lose a sense, which one would it be? I remember that was one of my questions one year. I'm like, of course I'll lose the sense of smell, because there's a lot of smelly things out there, but everything else I'd love to keep.
That's a good one.
And that was that. And then you had your auditions, and I loved it. In the earlier days, they would let you know who made the team that night. It was always so exciting to jump up and down when you heard your name or your number, and see who your teammates were for the year. And then you take that first squad picture there that night, everybody in their individual different costumes. It was just, it's great. It was definitely a great process. That was a great experience.
Yeah. What what do the costumes, what kind of things did y'all wear at auditions?
Jazz, I could have brought props if you had
I
let me know.
know.
I know, dang it. You're gonna have to show me later. Send me some photos. Because I know what the uniforms look like, and you had the socks. And I know the team now, they would nod to like the 90s era where they had the socks and the sneakers
Mm-hmm.
instead of the boots, which they wear they wear boots now. But like as far as auditions, like what did y'all wear? Do you remember what you wore? Like Felicia,
You had to you
you
had to
remember that?
wear briefs because they wanted to see your body, like, what type of physical shape you're in. So we wore tights and sneakers and briefs, with like a little half top so they could see your abdomen area. Oh, we had fun studying things ourselves. I mean, we were Michaels, whatever, with a glue
Yes.
gun and rhinestones and everything. I mean, now, the audition, not just with TopCats, but a lot of different squads. I think sometimes they'll do stuff where they wear things alike, but back then we could wear our own outfit, and you came as elaborate as you wanted to be. You made sure you stood out. And then the next year
Hmm.
we'd be like, hey, can I borrow that that top you wore last year, let me borrow your audition. We would switch them
Yes.
around and, you know, you either wore dance sneakers or, you know, just regular sneakers and tights. So yeah, that was it. And you know, you asked if we did across the floor. I think we would do some of that, you know, with the warm-ups. I think what stood out in my mind was if you made it to finals, I think, DaWanda, we would do that fitness round. So they would put us
Oh,
up
that
in like,
cardio round.
oh my
Yes,
God,
tell her about that,
cardio.
Fee. Tell her
They
about
would
that,
put
Fee.
us up, they would have like 4 lines, maybe of five, 4 lines of five, or 4 lines of
It was
four.
4 lines of four.
4 lines
Yes.
of four?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever it was, but it was four
Yes.
lines because you had to do that thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Four
And
times.
so, yeah, she stated we learned 2 routines, and you had to know the even part, the odd part, because you didn't know which one, and you didn't know which one you were going to perform until the night of. But in that cardio slash fitness round, they would play the song, and you were dancing your heart out. Say you started in the first line, and then you would rotate. And so, God forbid you started at the back, and then by the time the fourth time came around, you were then in the front. Honey, you better suck it in and not be breathing like you need a oxygen mask. But I definitely remember that.
That's a good
Yeah, what
memory,
was the
Fee. That
routine where we
was
had the double turns? Just
the double
imagine
turns and the toe touches.
4 times in a row and you're just turning,
Ooh,
jumping, turning, jumping. Wow. Yeah. So I think that was a memorable part of auditions
Audition
is
process. It
that
was.
cardio round and doing all of those routines.
Mm-hmm.
goodness.
It was almost like learning four routines
Yes.
because you did odds and evens for two
Mhm.
dances.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Right.
You had to know the odds and the evens? That's
Yes.
Yes.
insane.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
So
you didn't know
I
your
did,
audition number because you wouldn't know your audition number
Right.
until you checked in that night.
So yeah.
yeah.
So if I was 35, then I'm gonna do the hard part, and if the one that was 36, she was gonna do the even. And then so you had to know both, you know, just in case, because you had no idea.
That's really testing your mental
Yes.
capacity. That's like a
Hmm.
mental exercise as much it is physical exercise.
Yes.
And our
Yes.
coach used to say that, Kimberly, I'll give her that nod. Cheerleaders had to be smart. She insisted cheerleaders had to be smart and had to have the fortitude. So
Yeah.
it's very true, Jasmine.
So true. I am familiar with the cardio round. I did it my rookie season or first time auditioning, and I don't know if we had a toe touch like y'all, but it was definitely a challenge for a lot of us. And
Hmm.
if you didn't know it was coming, then you definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
got a real interesting surprise. Yeah, that's a lesson. Never
Hmm.
skip cardio. If you're working
Right.
out, don't ever skip cardio.
Right.
Indeed.
So both of you mentioned that you participated in this London Super Bash. Is it Super Bowl Bash?
It was a
Super
super
bash.
bash.
London Super Bash show.
Hmm.
So tell me about that experience. How were both of you chosen to go?
I think our veteran status, always Felicia, myself, well, I'll say, we contributed to the team and looked out for other people. But I really believe it was in that particular year, our veteran status. They wanted to reward folks who have been around for a while. And at the time, our assistant to the program, uh, Neely, is she Tina Neely? No, she's Becker now.
Becker.
Tina
Yeah.
Becker. She forward thinker, definitely looking for ways to reward the ladies that have been around and signed us up, I guess, for the Super Bash because we played in Super Bowl the year before. They used the Super Bowl teams from before and we went to London. But we had to put together routines. We weren't
Mhm.
doing any type of comedy skits or anything like that. This was just all dancing and public appearances with maybe autograph sessions. But the excitement of going to get my passport for the first time, gosh, making sure we were ready to perform in front of a crowd that really wasn't familiar with NFL football. But going to a party at one of their locations, London is 5 hours ahead of the Eastern Coast. So where kickoff is 6 p.m. here in Eastern Standard Time, it's
Mhm.
11 o'clock at night. And so we stayed up all night watching that game with these people. It was a great time. Fee, what do you remember in the preparation for that?
Wow. Definitely us putting together the show on our own as far as, what routines we wanted to do, having our uniforms, as you stated, going to get our passport, the flight over. I think that was my first time having an actual big meal. That was my, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was my first international flight. I remember we left at our flight was at like 6 o'clock in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Our hotel for the first night, that is a story within itself.
The Drury Inn.
Yeah.
How about Krista and I walked into a room, they gave us a key, and there was like men's clothes in there. We were like, I
It
think
was
you gave
quite
us an already occupied
interesting.
room.
That first hotel was quite interesting. I just
Stop.
remember me and my roommate, we slept in our clothes and on some clothes. We're like, okay, we don't want, but thankfully we got moved the next day to this fabulous hotel. Was it called a Savoy? I can't remember.
Yes.
I think it was a Savoy. But I mean, it was just magical. I mean, it was a different culture, as DaWanda stated. They weren't that familiar with football. The food, I just remember the breakfast bar, and it had like baked beans and Canadian ham and tomato slices. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And just,
Mm-hmm.
drinking tea all the time. And I remember we had an appearance, I think you were there, DaWanda, with Big Ben in the background
Yes.
and Brenson Buckner. Was he the only Panther player, I
It
think?
was Brenson Buckner. He was it.
Yes.
Yes.
Brenson Buckner was the player that was selected to go. So,
Mm-hmm.
we got a chance to do some appearances with him. And I just remember, I mean, it was freezing because it was in, late January, early February. So it was freezing there.
Yeah,
But
Super Bowl week.
yeah,
Yeah.
Super Bowl. So we had to take off our jackets to take one of those pictures. And I just remember this little girl, people were watching us take pictures in uniforms. And this little girl came up to me, and I think it was Denise. And she said, "Excuse me, but are you famous?" I was like, "Well, yes, I am." And I was
That's
like, "Oh
good.
my gosh." She was like, "Well, can I have your autograph?" And I was like, and, so that type of stuff, I think it was an amazing opportunity that we got to go over there and, like I said, bring,
Mm-hmm.
the NFL um,
To Europe. Yeah.
internationally. So I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those stories are so cool. Do you have something to add, DaWanda?
No, I mean, I think Felicia captured that really well. NFL was so new to Europe at that time, and
Mhm.
it was one of the first attempts of the NFL to broaden their awareness of the game, and it was just a pleasure to be a part of that early phase of the games being in
Yeah.
Europe. And now they're like in several locations. They're
Mhm.
in London, they're in Germany, and
Mhm.
in Brazil, or yeah, Brazil.
hmm The fact that you all were chosen and that you were able to go over there and that was like one of your first international flights. It's like TopCats gave you and the Panthers organization gave you
Mhm.
that opportunity, which I think is so cool. And you being immersed in that into that culture and
Mhm.
being a celebrity while you're
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm,
You know?
mm-hmm.
That's so cool. I wonder where that girl is now.
Who knows?
So one question that I had while one of you were talking, it was just about the amount of time that you were on the team. So both of you were on the team for 10 years. And I wanted to know, was that normal during your era on the team? Because I think there were a couple of you that were on the team for that amount of time. When I think about the current team and just current eras or more recent eras, being on the team for 10 years is like unheard of. And I know there's a rule now that you can't be on the team for more than maybe it's 5 now, but it used to be more than 10. And so I was just thinking how that was just every re-audition process. Did you feel like you still had to fight for your position on the team even with new talent coming in and more competitive talent coming in? Did you feel like your spot would be threatened or taken or like how was the sentiment around that during your time?
Let you go, Felicia.
Question. I think back then, I think we just enjoyed performing so much. We loved it. And so, it almost wasn't a question. Are you going to try out next year? It was like, yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to I'm going to re-audition. So I think even though all of us, we still had jobs, some of the ladies had families, married, what have you. I mean, we still wanted to go out there and be a part of the team and be a part of the Panthers organization and represent them in the community and be ambassadors for them. As far as thinking whether we could get cut, definitely that was a thought. I cheered 96 and 97, and then I took 98 off, and then I auditioned in 99. I made it to finals, but I didn't make the final squad and I got cut. And so, you were disappointed, but it also made you work harder. So it's like, okay, next year I'm gonna make sure I'm where I need to be, what have you, and I'm gonna go back out there and I'm gonna try again. So I think, you may have gotten some disappointment if you got cut or whatever the situation may have been, but you definitely wanted to come back and be a part of that. And just the camaraderie and, these ladies, we all spent so much time together. That was like your family away from your family. So you had a whole nother family over here. You had sisters. I mean, some of us have been in each other's weddings. Those that have kids, TopCat may be their child's godmom or what have you. So, I mean, I think we're all still very connected to this day. And I think that was evident from the 30th reunion. But yeah, definitely, you didn't take for granted or think that you were a shoe-in because you knew that there was always going to be the talent was going to get better year after year after year. And so you just had to make sure that you brought your A game.
And I'll just add to that you're constantly auditioning all year long. If you make it this year and what you're doing during the current year, and then you sign up for auditions for next year, you've technically really auditioned already. Did I deliver a good year? There may be some things that may kind of like there could be a lot of talent. And I say a lot of people make it, and at that time it was 35 on the squad.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody makes it for several different reasons. There are, people that have amazing dance abilities. There are people that are amazing speakers. There are people that have so many talents that what you display and what you do throughout the year is measured along the way in addition to your audition. So sometimes I say it's harder to be a veteran and audition again because what you've done is accounted for, not just the audition process. So if you're totally a new rookie and you're coming into this audition process the first time, all management has is to go on what you're doing during the audition process. But as a veteran, your breadth of work is always being measured too. So you definitely are not ever surprised about how your audition process should go. I mean, I think some of the things that we did during that time, you had exit interviews, you had conversations along the way. Nobody's ever telling you, yes, you're going to make it back or no, you're going to be cut, but you know what the feedback is. And I'm hoping, each time that I'm having some interaction or my exit interview that I'm feeling confident. There is no conversation that would steer me in a different direction. So I kind of know what I'm going up against. So I don't have the fear of surprise. I mean, there's always could be a surprise, but I always felt confident going into an audition process because I know I tried my hardest and I did my best throughout the earlier part of the year. And auditions was just the process to get onto the squad for the next year.
Absolutely. That also brought up another question about like body standards and your fitness standard during that time. How important was that to you, and how important was it to your making the team?
Oh, very, very important. So we started out with weight limits. Like we had weight limits assigned to us in the earlier days. Probably the latter part of my tenure, we went to uniform checks. But in the early days, weight mattered. So no matter what the scale said, I mean, no matter what your appearance looked like, it was all about the scale. You had to meet that number. And that was important because the organization wanted to put out there a packaged product that they were proud of. And so that was really, really important. But we also understand too that sometimes women, your weight fluctuates and things of that nature happens too. So what is it that you look like in your uniform? So then we matured into the uniform check. So again, while we had weight goals, it was still all about the uniform check. So it goes back to the pride. We wanted to look good. We wanted to feel good. We didn't want to have to like feel uncomfortable. Like, hey, we're wearing two-piece uniforms and I don't want to be not physically fit and having to be uncomfortable and maybe put my pom-poms in front of me or hide myself or something. I want to feel confident, raise my hands and cheer as loud as I can because I'm representing the team the way they want me to look.
Yeah, I would agree. Physical fitness was definitely very important. As she stated, we did have a weight goal in those early years, but thankfully we progressed past that because, as she stated, numbers can change. You can be one thing in the morning, and then by the evening you could be 5 pounds heavier, and it could just be water weight. And then by the time game day rolls around, or what have you, the next day even your back, but physical fitness was important. You took pride in how you looked on the field or appearance or wherever you were representing the Panther organization and representing yourself. You wanted to feel confident in your own skin. And so
Mhm.
I think we did a great job with helping each other and working out or running around the practice field or whatever we had to do to make sure that we were meeting those goals.
Yeah. What were some of those workouts that you did that helped you meet those goals?
Well, in the early years, woo, then we ran the steps, I think. We did wheelbarrows with each other on the practice
Oh
field.
gosh.
We had all kind of stuff. I mean, you worked out on your own, but we would also do things inside of the locker room, as a
Yeah, so
team.
they
Yeah.
put in the physical fitness for us as well. So you're right, Fee. It was like retreat day. We would run the steps of the stadium.
Hmm.
Our coach at the time said she would see Sam Mills maybe running the steps. And we did that every retreat weekend. Yes, the wheelbarrows. That's a whole different story. But they also gave us, Jasmine, gym memberships.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So we went
Yeah.
to ballets a year. We
Hmm.
had goals. We had I can't remember the names of the gyms because they come and go in Charlotte. But we and so yeah, if they're asking us to be physically fit, then they're giving us the resources and the
Hmm.
tools to do it. So it was serious. So to go back to your earlier question, it was important to them. So they meant it. The product they put out there needs to look the way they need it to look.
Yes, absolutely. The fact that you got a gym membership is
I had forgotten about that. Yeah,
Yes, we
I did.
did.
that's a
I
good
used to
point
go.
though. Like if they want you to look the part, they're gonna have to provide the resources for you to
Right.
do that. And giving your
Mm-hmm.
gym
Mm-hmm.
membership is like, here, we're giving this to you. You have no excuse not to come in here looking
Exactly.
anything other
Exactly.
than what we
Yeah.
expect you to look like. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I know the current team does have like they have a sponsor, fitness sponsor too. So
Mm-hmm.
that's great that they've been able to bring that back and incorporate that into the different teams.
I think we had a nutrition by the time we went to the first Super Bowl, from what I can
Oh yeah,
recall.
we had the nutritionist. Yes.
Yes. So we
Spangler.
had,
Yeah.
yeah, we did. We had nutritionists that came in and, helped us with meal plans and things that we should be eating and things of that nature. So I do remember that as well.
Yeah, they really worked hard to give us what we needed. And it was like so we were all eager to do our part to whether, sign up for the protein shake program or go to the gym regularly. Particularly, I can remember going to Super Bowl, getting ready for Super Bowl, and the nutritionist coming in and telling us, okay,
Hmm.
we've got 2 weeks before
Right.
game day, before big game day, big Super Bowl day, and here's what you need to do.
Hmm.
And I can remember, Felicia, you and I having a conversation. I don't even know if you will remember this, but it snowed before we went to Super Bowl.
Yes, it did.
And you and I were talking, and you said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run up and down my steps
Hmm.
in your apartment, maybe. And you're like, that's going to be my cardio. And I was like, dang,
Yeah.
Fee, that's a great idea. I'm going to do the same thing. So, with the snow on the ground and can't really go places, I was like,
Mhm.
I'm getting my cardio in, running up and down the steps.
Right.
It's just,
Yep.
you made it a priority.
Yes. Props to y'all. You made it work. You had no excuses. No excuses. I love that. Hey, you wanted to look good and you wanted to show up for your team,
Exactly.
so
Yes.
props to y'all. So both of you mentioned that you were captains, and I want to know what was one of the most difficult things about being a captain. And I know it's a huge privilege and honor to be chosen to be a captain. Well, first, I want to know when you started to put yourself into that role and be a captain, how was it difficult for you starting out and then just throughout? And then how were captains chosen?
And initially, captains were chosen by the choreographer. But Jasmine, also in the very early years, we had captains and co-captains.
Hmm.
And so in a line of 7, we had a captain and a co-captain. And I stepped into a co-captain's position my 3rd year on the squad. So my 3rd year on the squad, I stepped into a co-captain's position. So as a co-captain, you really are observing and assisting your captain, and acting in that fashion if anything should happen to your captain. So for me, I really loved having that little platform to stand on first. And then in my 4th season, I became a captain. I think it was hard because all of a sudden you go from being everybody's sister and friend to, okay, I have to have meetings with management and I have to talk about how we are progressing. And if there are issues that crop up, I really have to talk about it. And I don't want to I'm not playing favorites and not going to say something about this person because I want my line to look good. I'm gonna say it. I want our whole Top Cat squad to look good. So I'm gonna say it. Besides, management can give me some tips and tools of how to help deal with that situation. Just from me and them perspective, and not necessarily have to deal with people on my line. But I think that was the hardest part at first, just going from just friend and sister to I'm a little bit more your leader now. So but the way I viewed it was I'm here to make you feel good, help you look good, help you enjoy your time on this team. So my teams were fun. I let everybody feel like they had a voice. I think everybody's voice is heard. I know sometimes you can have some people that says, okay, this is how we do it. This is what we're going to do. I'm kind of like the person that's my leadership style. I want everybody to feel seen and heard. So it's kind of a consensus with me, and that's how we kind of decide to do the things that we do for my line. But yeah, that initial phase was a co-captain role, and then we went into people voting after they had started because they would call captains, they would name captains the night of auditions. So you didn't even have a chance to vote for anybody. It was directly from the leadership. And then we got to a phase where we got to vote for captains.
I would say for
Wow.
me, I think one of the most challenging things were um, dealing with different personalities. You know, you can have some very strong personalities. I think I remember my first year as a captain. I had another person that had been a captain on my line. So, you know, as DaWanda said, it's kind of, you're in charge and you need to be the leader, but at the same time, you just have to be mindful of the other people and just, well, I'm getting better at it. I don't like confrontation. So I really didn't like it as a captain. And if you had to deliver some bad news or say something with a disciplinary tone, I guess that could have been a little bit difficult. But I think our management staff and letting them, they handled it very well. They definitely had an open door policy if there was something that we needed to discuss or take offline or even something that they may have needed to intervene with, we could feel confident that we had the support that we needed. But
Absolutely.
I think overall, if I had to do it all over again, I definitely would. But I think that was a learning process for me. It's just, how do you deal with the different personalities so that you get done what you need to get done and that your line is always prepared? Because if they're not, then of course you as the captain, they're going to look at you like, okay, why don't such and such know this? And so you took it upon yourself if you had someone that may Some people need a little bit more time when it comes to learning routines. And so always willing to be there to help. Hey, I'll come to practice an hour early to help you to make sure you have the routine. It wasn't just about, oh well, the rest of us have it, you don't have it. You're one line and in essence one team. So the product that you put on the field is reflective of all of you. So just making sure that you are there and whatever that leadership capacity is, not just on game day, but also in rehearsals and on and off the field. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you both. That's so real, dealing with difficult personalities and also what you said, DaWanda, too, about being able to be a leader, but also like be a sister and a friend too. And sometimes you can't control who's on your line. It might be
Absolutely.
somebody with a big personality that you kind of have to
mhm,
reel in a little bit, and then might be
Mm-hmm.
who is like your best friend. You don't want to ruin that
mhm,
relationship too. So it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I think it's like you both mentioned, it's a learning opportunity. And I'm sure like that experience has helped you in other areas of your life. I would hope that it would. So I think, yeah, those are very real challenges.
mhm.
Absolutely. The program, and of course, captain's position on this team, you take that leadership skills to your job, your everyday live work life, personal life. You take it everywhere. You gain confidence. This program gives you the ability to gain confidence, to grow, to be yourself, to learn yourself, even. Where are your strengths? And I could see myself flourishing just from leadership roles within TopCats in my job, being able to speak up, because you have to do that at TopCats. Then all of a sudden I'm taking this to my 9 to 5 gig, and I'm like, okay, I can be seen, I can be heard. Because sometimes you come in and you're a woman and you're in this big corporate America, and sometimes you kind of maybe small down. But once you learn your voice and you are able to be seen and heard, and TopCats did that for me, and I could do that at my workplace too. So yeah, there might have been some lumps and bumps along the way, but it was definitely worthwhile as I was able to proceed in life.
Yeah, amazing. So on that note, DeWanda, you spoke about CPFCAA. I want you to tell me what that stands for.
Carolina Professional Football Cheerleaders Alumni Association.
Amazing. What made you said you were the originator of this? Is this
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah.
What made you start it? Tell us about that startup story.
We operated in an alumni fashion called TCA, Top Cat Alumni.
Hmm.
And because the alumni are no longer employees of Carolina Panther organization, they can't take on liability for anything that we do. So we needed to rebrand ourselves. And so I partnered with many of the other alumni organizations, NFL cheer teams, participate in the National Football Cheerleaders Alumni Organization, and learn that in order to be independent and do things with your alumni association, you do have to rebrand yourself away from the organization. So, learning that, talking with people that want to do stuff still and not just rely on the Panthers organization to invite us to something. So, we had to stand on our own. So, that's where I wanted to do that. Created the bylaws, created the name, gotten the tax ID number, filed it for a for a nonprofit title. We can stand on our own. We can do as we need to help achieve those three things that I mentioned in the beginning: sisterhood and camaraderie, work in the community and service, and to serve each other when in need. This program is too special to just stop when you retire, when you throw up the pom poms. It's just too special. The people who have come through the doors, whether I cheered with them or not, I know that they are special people because they were a part of that program. And to be able to bring us together on different opportunities, when and where, how it was needed to be done. So I just said, let me do it. I wanted it.
That's incredible. I think there's so many opportunities that have happened over the years. I'm sure there's so many top cats out there, former top cats, that have been able to capitalize on those opportunities and come back and give and participate and still feel like, they're part of the organization. So I think that's incredible. And I'm happy to see that it's still thriving today. So thank you for that. So it's Black History Month. So when you ladies were on the team, do you remember how the organization honored Black History Month and what was your role in that? And if not, then what are some type of memorable moments that you can share about
Oh, Jasmine, that's
Black History Month?
great. I don't really recall us doing anything specifically for February and Black History Month. It's generally off season, and we probably hit practices maybe once or something like that, getting ready to set up for auditions. But I will say it was, gosh, I'm going to pull out a date. It was probably 2002. People still read magazines. And the Ebony magazine did an article on NFL cheer squads and African American women in representation on NFL cheer squads. So I remember this, like I was standing in a store and looking at the magazine and going, a minute, a minute. We have 11 African American women on this squad. Like I said, it was like 2002. And they're naming all these other squads that have 8 and 9 and 7. And I'm like, wait, we have 11. So I remember us all talking about it, and we presented it to our director, Leslie, at the time. And she contacted Ebony Magazine and said, we've got a squad of 11. And they immediately wanted to do a retraction. And so Leslie got the photographer. We came in. Maybe we did it the day before, like on the hour or so before practice started. We got makeup and hair done and put on our uniforms. And we were in the media room and we took these pictures. And Leslie sent them on to Ebony Magazine. And so the TopCats were featured in a retraction, and Ebony's story as having the most of 11 African Americans on the squad. And it wasn't even the year that we had the most. The year before, in 2001, we actually had 13, because we took a trip to Miami that year and there was like 13 of us in a room together. But we did. The year before that was 13. And with the squad of 35, I mean, you're almost halfway
Yeah,
represented
that's
on that
incredible.
team. And it was not done in those days. It was not a lot. And we used to always feel very privileged or special because we knew it was a privilege. It wasn't a right. We were very privileged to be there, and to not take it for granted, because not many get that opportunity. So we needed to treat it special, and just to have that representation in what used to be everybody's household magazine that they would have, and most African American families, it was either the Jet magazine on the coffee table or the Ebony magazine on the coffee table, and we ended up in Ebony.
That's so cool. I remember seeing a clip or a photo of that photo shoot, and I was just like, that's so incredible. And were you in that? You were in that too, Felicia, right?
Yes, I was.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I see all these women that I know, and they're former Top Cats, and they're Top Cat legends, and they're in this magazine, and that must have been an incredible experience that you can you pull out of the magazine and like post it on your wall and say that you were in Ebony magazine. That's incredible. But also the fact that you said there were 13 women on the team at one point, Black women on the team, and it's I think that we should give a lot of props to the director, Leslie, and whoever the choreographer was at the time, whoever the
Nicole.
management,
Nicole.
Nicole, okay. Because you wouldn't think that the Panthers. I guess a normal person wouldn't think that the Panthers organization would have the most black women on the team because we're in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that would probably come from like a team up north or out west. But the fact that we had that many women on the team representing, black women, that's just incredible to me. And it's something that you don't think about coming from a Southern organization and a conservative organization. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, thank you for sharing that story. That's so incredible how it came about. Felicia, what about you?
I would just echo what DaWanda said. We really didn't
Yeah.
do that much during Black History Month per se because it was technically kind of the off season, but I think we felt appreciated pretty much all year round. We never felt like we were singled out as African American women. We just all worked together. We were one squad and, we're putting the best product that we can on the field. I think it made us more mindful during auditions when we did see other young African American ladies come in. We kind of took them under our wing, so to speak, made sure they knew the lay of the land. Hey, this is your first day here. If you make it back tomorrow, get you some tights that match your skin tone. I still have a pair of Capizio dance sneakers floating out there in the world somewhere that I let somebody borrow that I never got back. But hey, we didn't care. We just wanted to make sure that we put our best foot forward. And so I think we did make a point to, hey, if you have any questions, I know we all probably gave our number out, or we would, if we were rehearsing during auditions, we made sure everybody knew, hey, if you need some extra help, let me know. Earrings, hey, stun our little gun or whatever we need to do with our glue gun to help you with your outfit. We just wanted to make sure that we were well represented, whether it was auditions or once you made the squad. But like I said, as an organization, we were always treated fairly. And I take pride in that and being a part of that. And we looked hot in that picture, I might say.
You did. Definitely.
They're griefy.
Yes, we did. I just need those abs back right about now.
I love that you said that, when you saw other black women come in to audition, you took them under your wing and you helped them. I think that's really important and shows what type of person you are and what type of organization the TopCats is, because I can imagine some people can look at that situation and get intimidated about this girl's coming to take my spot or she's competition. But you didn't look at it that way. You kind of shifted your mindset and it was like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to pay it forward, to help somebody else that looks like me. Because at the end of the day, she could be my teammate, like DaWanda said earlier too. So I think that's an incredible show of just character and who you are. Appreciate you sharing that, Felicia.
Thanks.
All right. So I have a couple questions that were from my audience about just auditions. And we talked about auditions, but I want to talk about maybe a couple specific things that they requested that I asked. This might not be about auditions, but I want to ask it. This came from somebody in my audience. Who was the most famous person that you've performed with or interacted with as a TopCat?
Who did we perform with? All I can remember is we danced with Flo Rida. But Jasmine, you were on the team at that time too, I think. As an alumni dancer, we came back and danced with Flo Rida.
I was on the team?
I don't remember.
Yeah, remember that? No, you weren't. Did you dance in 14?
No, I started in
Okay.
2017.
Okay, not yet. Well, that's the only person I can think of because I don't think we had any special guests that came to the stadium at game day to perform with. Now, we've had several appearances with people, but we weren't dancing or performing. But we've gone to movie sets. We've been with Mel Gibson. We've been with, oh gosh, what's some of the other ones' names, Felicia? Who else have we had?
I may have been field assistant at the time. I remember Brian McKnight coming for something at the stadium. It was somebody else.
But I remember it was that NFC playoff game against the 49ers. and we danced with Flo Rida. That's the only one I can remember.
Yeah. Not even at Super Bowl? Did you meet somebody?
Well, yeah, I've got pictures
Oh,
with
yeah.
Barry Sanders. And then of course, Felicia and I had a special night at Super Bowl and we had another lady with us, Pam Felicia,
Mhm.
that we went to the Nelly concert because
Yes.
we met somebody in the back of
Mhm.
in the Nelly entourage, and he was like, "We're gonna get you backstage. You're gonna get to meet Nelly." So we went to the concert. He was performing at some little
Mhm.
nightclub somewhere. And so we personally took pictures with Nelly. I met Barry Sanders. I think at that time I also took pictures with Jerry Rice at the NFL experience. There was what's the one's name? Dan Marino. I got pictures with him.
We've seen
So
Tony
there's a lot of,
Wow.
Dorsett. Was it Tony Dorsett there? It was so many people, especially Super Bowl. There
oh, right.
were a lot
Mm-hmm.
of celebrities. Weren't we at an appearance, I think, at Super Bowl and Beyonce? Because I know she sang the national anthem the in Super Bowl 38.
Yes, she did.
She came to some appearance, and I think somebody tried to take a picture, and her
Oh, it was
bodyguard
because it
like
was she was trying to
snatched
take
the
a picture with
camera.
Jay-Z. And
Yes,
they
somebody
weren't out
snatched it.
yet. They weren't out yet.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
And the bodyguard like put his hand on the camera.
yeah.
You can't take the
You
picture.
can't take that
Yep.
picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
We got
top cat tried to
LL
take a
Cool
picture
J
of them?
pictures.
Yes.
No, the bodyguard wouldn't let us take the picture of them.
Wow. Because they weren't like a official couple yet.
They weren't out
No.
yet. Yes.
Wow. That's
So we saw the
juicy.
early. Yeah. Yeah, we saw
That's,
the early.
that's so cool.
And then even when we do these alumni activities, just like I did San Francisco this past weekend, and got see Tony Dungy, got to see what's the other Tonys? Tony
Tony
Dorsett.
Romo. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Tony Dorsett, he was the cowboy. Romo was a cowboy too. Oh my God. So like at these NFL alumni events, all of the alumni players come back out
Mhm.
too. Everybody gets to relive their heydays again. And so it's an opportunity for fans to get to see them, take pictures with them. So just this past weekend, it was an opportunity to meet several of them.
That's so cool. Y'all definitely have interacted or taken pictures with so many
Right.
famous people. That's so cool. What's something that keeps you motivated when you feel low or you have no motivation at all?
Great question.
That's a really good question.
Faith, Jasmine, is huge. My personal faith is huge. When I am low and when I am down, it's an opportunity for me to pray. And when I am reminded and faithful, and to give my burdens and to give my issues to the Lord, I do so. But I also believe in self care. And self care is something that can get me out of that space. So, whether I'm starting to eat better, whether I'm starting to take more walks, get into the gym, read self help literature, books, those are the things that can spring into mind that help me remain more positive. And if I'm a positive, then my energy picks back up and then I'm able to do more things and get out of that funk. But that's where it all starts, though, is with faith. And so I know that God won't put on me more than I can bear. That's where I get my motivation and inspiration from, just from my faith. There are a lot of things, like I said, I do impart with self care. And it's so good to take care of yourself because there are a lot of things that are heavy in life, and I have to do. There are a lot of things that can overtake you and put you in those spaces. But when I get to praying and I get to re energize myself with some self care, then I really kind of come out of it. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you for that. Felicia?
For me, I would definitely say faith as well. Sometimes you have to remind yourself, just how blessed you are. Even though you may not feel motivated, you're still here. I think I've learned in later years as I get older. I mean, I'm only 30, but
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I think as we get older, we learn to, give ourselves grace. You may not feel motivated all the time, but you can still kind of get yourself going, whether it's watch something a favorite movie or a comedy or talk to a family member or a friend. Sometimes you might just need a little pick me up. Just yesterday, I know I needed to go to the gym. I was not motivated. I'm like, I am not going. But then I was like, you know what? That's why they have YouTube. I can find, so I found a 30-minute hip workout, and then I just felt so much better because it was like I kept moving. I wasn't motivated to go to the gym, but after I sat with it for a while, I was like, I can still do something to move my body. So I think, sometimes self-motivation and remembering to give yourself grace, even though, today might not be the day, but you pick it up again tomorrow. I also get energized, by being around people. Sometimes I'll call up a friend, hey, you want to go grab a bite to eat? Just, something to just kind of keep you moving so you don't just get so stuck in your head or whatever challenges that life is throwing your way. You just, keep things moving. So that's what kind of works for me.
Yeah, if there's one thing I've learned about Felicia during this time, I know she's gonna find a way to work out. She's gonna go up those stairs and she's gonna watch a YouTube video.
Yes.
She's gonna
Something.
make it work,
That's it.
y'all.
That's it.
You have no excuse to
Right.
not get your workout in.
Right.
Once you get started, it gets easier from there.
It
Take
does.
Felicia's
Mhm.
advice. Last question I want to ask, and I ask this usually on all my podcasts, is how are you imperfect?
It's a good one.
That is.
Hmm.
Well, I would say sometimes I don't always have the confidence that sometimes people might think that I have. Sometimes I'm unsure. If there's like a new responsibility at work, like right now, my job is asking me to do something that I've totally not ever done before, and having to learn new skills, and I doubt myself sometimes whether I can actually pull this off. I'm like, am I going to get in trouble at work? I mean, like, I just really have to start believing in myself. So some of those things of, motivating myself, I'm going to have to rely on my faith. I'm going to have to start to think about what are the things that are going to make me feel good so that I can get that confidence up and that energy and motivation to learn these new skills, because if it's in a whole different realm of my expertise, then I have that little doubt that comes in. And I understand that when you do start something new, you're not 100% at it. And I know that I will, once I get going, I'll start to learn, I'll start to practice it, I'll start to get a little better with it. And then that confidence can grow. But it just takes those first steps and get over that hurdle of, can I really do it? And then once I figure I got whatever little plateau I can stand on, then I can go from there. But it's the doubt sometimes, Jasmine, that makes me imperfect.
Yeah, and everybody's like that too. Everybody has a little self-doubt. It's just about how you work through it, like you said.
Right.
That's right.
How are you imperfect, Felicia?
For me, I would say, I would think setting boundaries, which is one thing that I'm working on. People ask me to do stuff, whether it's family or friends, most of the time it's family. You're like, oh, you're thinking to yourself, okay, out of all the people, you're gonna come to me. You're like, I really don't want to do it, but you sometimes you kind of put yourself on the back burner to help out
Mm-hmm.
with whatever the situation may be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's one of the things that I am practicing this year is setting boundaries, saying no, and no is a complete sentence without over explaining. Well, I can't do it, and this, I would, but this is why, and such and such and such and such. No, I'm sorry, I won't be able to help you with that, or whatever the situation is, and not feeling guilty about not helping. Um,
Mm-hmm.
those are
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that I think I'm learning to work on as well. And like I said, just giving yourself grace. And a friend told me that years ago, and I was like, wow, you always say you extend grace to other people, but giving it to yourself as well. So I think that's important. Confidence for me sometimes as well. People think, oh, well, you used to be a cheerleader and you did this and you did that. And I remember I had a friend ask me something, and she was like, Felicia, I can't believe you're scared or hesitant. You cheered for the Panthers. I was like, right. But I may, and this is how I used to explain it to people. I forgot how many seats the stadium has, 72, 365, or whatever it is. And I used to be, out of all the people in that big old stadium. I may only know 5 of them. You know, I might have a few friends that came to the game, or it might be my parents or, some other family members. I don't know, as they say, I don't know these people, so I'm just going to go out there and have a ball. I'm not trying to impress them from a standpoint of, oh, I hope they're proud of me. Definitely I want to go out there and perform, to the top of my ability. But that's the way I used to think about it. I was like, well, I only know like 3 or 4 people. So the rest of these people are strangers and they don't
Yeah.
know me. They know me as, oh, she's a top cat. So I just went out there and did it and had a ball. So that's the way I used to think of it. I'm not going to
Yeah.
see these people again unless they come to a parents and be like, I was at the game the other day or something like that. But yeah.
That's a great way to look at it and
Yeah.
not being nervous. But also, I think it's so interesting how, like, we as dancers, we can get in front of a crowd and be our most confident selves
Mhm.
as we're dancing. But then if we're asked to make a presentation or speak in front of a
Right.
crowd, we
Right.
kind of like shrink up sometimes. Not everybody's like that,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right.
sometimes we are. And it's incredible that we're so confident in one area, but then sometimes we might need to work on our confidence in other areas. And it's like,
True.
yeah, sometimes it doesn't translate as easily,
Yeah.
but you have to remind yourself that you can do those hard things that other people
Mhm.
may not be confident in doing.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, thank y'all for being vulnerable and sharing those things with our audience. I want to do a little bit of rapid fire before we wrap it up. And this is just, I'm going to say something and then you spit out whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
All right? So, do you have a favorite Top Cat tradition and what is it?
1, 2, 3, let's go, TopCats.
Yeah.
Just kind of like breaking down practice.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love the 1, 2, 3, Let's Go Top Cats as well. I would say if I had to think of another, I don't think it's that much of a tradition now, but every year we used to have this big elaborate Halloween show.
Yeah.
So we used to do that every year, and as a line, we would get together and kind of think of what we were going to do. So I looked forward to that every single year. So I would say outside of our 1, 2, 3, let's go Top Cat chant, I used to always look forward to Halloween shows.
Mm-hmm.
It was so fun. What is your favorite dance that you ever did as a Top Cat?
Gosh, so many. Proud Mary.
The playoff game, the Dallas one, when we did Ludacris and Britney Spears, Stand Up.
Yeah, remember that.
What was her little? It was like a mix song, but that
Mhm.
playoff game, because then we took it to Super Bowl too.
Right.
Mhm.
Proud Mary was one of my favorites.
That was
Hmm,
a good one too.
Yeah.
so fun. Who's your favorite Panthers player of all time?
My favorite, it has to be Steve Smith. Has to be Steve Smith. He's the epitome of fight. I love it.
Gosh, out of all of them, Cam is a close second. I'd have to go with Steve as well. Steve played with a chip on his shoulder, and he was not going to let anybody say, "Oh, well, he can't catch the ball. He's not as tall as, some wide receivers." No, he was going to prove you wrong every single time he stepped on that field, and he left it all on the field. I think I still have that T-shirt. What was it? Ice Up Son?
Ice Up Son.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was a
And he was personable too.
yeah.
He
He was
he
personable.
was really talkative. He would see you walking around in the stadium. He would say what's up. I can remember when he was injured one year and he wasn't able to really do a whole lot. And we were getting ready to go out to dance for either Fan Fest or whatever it was that happened, PSL Day, whatever we called it back in the day. And he's like, "What are y'all getting ready to do?" I'm like, "Steve, we're going to go dance later. See you later."
That's so
It's the
cool.
great is funny, just funny, funny, funny to me.
Yeah. I think it's great when the players can actually acknowledge you and talk to you and just say hi because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, you are coworkers. You're there for a shared goal. You want to win games and you want to entertain fans. So I think that's incredible and great character on his part.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is the last one. What's a Top Cat move that will never get old, in your opinion?
Move.
Um,
Feel free to do it right now if you want, but it's not required.
Well, I
Mm.
think from like way back in the early days, we remembered the portions to this dance called Black Cat. And I
Mm.
bet you if you could find people from 96, 97, 98, they probably could do about the
Oh yeah.
first 2, 3, 8 counts of this
Mhm.
dance like without a rehearsal. And it just stands in your mind. And you know what I'm going to do, the pop, pop.
For the arm, something. DaWanda remembers all the routines,
I love it.
like all the routines. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
would say
I remember that.
out of all of our routines, that's probably the one with the most signature moves would be Black Cat.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
choreographed
Yeah.
that one?
Kimberly.
Kimberly. Yes.
Kimberly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do know the Black Cat routine. I interviewed Tammy Tucci and
Mhm.
Shannon McClatty, and they mentioned Black
Uh-huh.
Cat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I told you anybody from 96, 97, 98, those first 3 years of the team, that dance was done year over year over year because Kimberly, as the coach at that time, she really did call it our signature dance. And she wanted to put that dance out on the field for fans to get familiar with it too.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
And it goes perfectly with the brand Black Cat. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much. This has been so much fun, and thank you for taking a trip down memory lane with me and sharing your experiences that you've had as a top cat. I know this episode is going to resonate with a lot of people, but also they're going to learn something because I learned some surprises that I didn't know about the organization. So I appreciate you both for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. My
Thank you for
pleasure. And
having
thank
us.
you for having us,
Thank you so
Jasmine.
much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Imperfect Cheerleader podcast. Taking the time to listen while you're busy with all of life's responsibilities means the world to me. If you enjoyed this episode, here are a few ways you can support ICP. Number 1, hit the subscribe button so you always get newly released episodes and never miss them. Number 2, take a screenshot of the episode you listened to and tag at the professional cheerleader on Instagram. I love to repost your tags and shout you out on stories. And number 3, write a review on Apple Podcasts. This is the best way to show your support for the podcast and helps bring us even more guests, interviews, and topics. I hope you have a wonderful day and continue to work towards your goals of becoming a professional cheerleader, dancer, or someone who just loves to move, honey. I'll see you next time on another episode of the Imperfect Cheerleader podcast. Bye for now.